So today we are going to be talking about fast track your owner statement process. Right. So, but before we get started, I'd like to introduce Fidel. Fidel is our product manager. He's joining us today so that you can ask questions and get the first-hand answer from one of the brains behind this amazing product that is owner statement. So how to automate that, how to expedite the process of creating owner statements, right? But you have to understand the foundation of financial reporting in order to advance, right? And understand, because remember, owner statement is the final output, right? If you're missing some of the pieces, uh, they are all the inputs that are needed to get to the best output, right? So that's why I will review quickly, right? We are going to open to questions, and I strongly recommend that you provide your questions so that we can answer, we can go over that, with everyone, and everyone can take advantage, of the answers we have. Okay. Now let's let's get started. As you can see, not too much PowerPoint, right? So you don't have to worry about that. We are going to start here. So before I get started here, very, very important, right? So where can you find more information about Hostaway, right? So first, I recommend you to watch this one. If you click on this journal here, you will be able to see every news, about features that are being released, right? So the product keeps evolving. And if you're not aware, I recommend you to follow this because you see some of the things might not change the way you work, but some of them might be extremely important, to change the way you work and improve the way you work, right? So, for example, we are talking about owner statements are more intuitive today, right? And as you can see, it is here, right? Maybe we don't have a webinar because it is a smaller feature, but maybe it is, right? So please let us know if you would like more webinars or on specific topics. We'll be glad to address that. Quality dashboard. We had Jade a couple of weeks ago discussing that. So yeah, very important to follow that. These are your notifications. Then need help. Another very important. Here's how you create a ticket, right? So if you ever need to create a ticket, again, I know some of you are still in onboarding, post your question, subject, the property ID comes here, automatically, provide examples, channels, features, and take screenshots if you believe something is not working, okay? Now, if you're here, right? And then this is for email support. I recommend you always to email support before you call support, because then you can provide, the scenario, the background and what you're seeing and what you're expecting. And then when you call, someone already has an idea, of what you're missing, right? And or maybe what you're looking for. Now, I'm already getting some on the Q&A. I'm already getting someone asking, I did not receive the link to recording of past webinar. Thanks, Lee. Where can you find that? Right? If you scroll down a little bit here, you see 2025 customer success webinars. Right? Then you click here, and you see all the webinars that were delivered this year, right? So the last one was website rich. This is the one that I'm talking about, right? So we have a webinar here about financial reporting this month, right? Here, let me copy this link and I will share the link. So any one of you here in this webinar, you have access to this page. This is in the user guide, right? You can watch any one of the recordings. Everything is stored here. Sometimes I publish, register here. I didn't publish this time because it was a last minute decision and we changed the plans, right? But the recording, you can be sure it will be here on this page, right? So what I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to share the entire page with you so that you can have it. And I recommend you to bookmark and use the user guide, right? It is very important. And so why it is very important? For example, let's talk about owner statement, right? So we're talking about owner statement. Look for articles. Of course, we have a community where you can post, your request uh, to book. I'm sorry, request to book, requests, product feature requests, and then for owner statements, we have at least 3 articles, and they're very good, right? Many times I talk to people and they say, yeah, I don't know how to get it done. My first question is always, have you seen the user guide? Because that's the first way to go. And as you can see, there are screenshots here that you can follow and create things step by step, right? Of course, you can rewatch the webinar, but it has it in a very organized way here. And I strongly recommend you that you spend some time here because for some of you, you may think that, well, Andrew is repeating what he always says. And some of you are saying, well, Andrew is going too fast. I'm not following him. Each one has a different speed, and that's fine, right? So just use your speed and your preferred way of learning and use videos, use the user guide, but always have the user guide as a reference. You will not go wrong, right? As you can see, a very thorough one. Okay. So that said, you see another one now talking about automations, how this is going to work. By the way, I'm just scrolling because the idea today is to go over that. Okay, so I'm not going to discuss, on the user guide. I'm going to show you how to get it done, on your dashboard. And as you can see, again, different ways, different perspectives. You can automate, you can duplicate. There are many things here. That's why I invited Fidel here because he works a lot, so now he might as well, just be here and see firsthand, feedback, what you're seeing. If you have already seen, please give me a feedback here, so that we can address. If you have questions about anything, you can ask. But of course, I'm going to focus on today topic. If we have time, of course, I'm glad to cover anything, right? Another important message, right? So if you need additional assistance, right? We have here a form that you can fill out the form and ask for additional assistance. And why is that? Some of you may come with questions to me that I would need to open your dashboard to see what you're doing wrong. And of course, there are many people here, watching. I don't want to share information about your clients, yourself, your account. So I will not do that, right? So that's why we have this link here, because then you can request assistance and I can share with my team and ask someone to reach out to you, right? So, and where can you find this information? You can find your account ID here on settings. You can come here, you find your account ID, your email, provide your name. That's all you, and what kind of assistance do you need, right? Well, what's the topic? It doesn't have to be related to financial reporting exclusively. Okay. Now, with these messages here, let's keep moving. Let's keep moving, right? Quick, super quick recap. Users, right? So you have to create a user. It makes a lot of difference the way that you create a user, right? So why is that? Because the way that you define the user is the way that someone will see the information on the owner statement or financial reporting in general, right? So Here's where you can select things. For example, right? I can select that I want the owner only to see the owner payout, right? How do I do that? Here, right? And that will change the experience of the user. That's why I always come back to user. A lot of people underestimate, the importance of this section. Here, how do we know if they're seeing the information or if they can interact with the information here, right? If they can only see, if they can modify, if they can create everything, how they get notified, and very important, right? Which listings do they have access to, right? Of course, this is my test account, right? But usually an owner would be only connected to the listings that they own, right? So in real life, right? So I'm not going to change anything here, but I have a couple of accounts created here. Right? Another thing that is important to know, and then if you don't understand or still have difficulties to understand, I recommend you to review your formulas. The issue could be on the formula, not on the owner statement. If you're not getting to the right number that you wish you have, this is where you can find, right? So you can edit formulas. So you might use your formulas in a completely different way that another property manager is using, right? So it is important that you know that. Not every property manager uses financial information or have used the same terminology, and that means the same thing at the end of the day, right? So if for you this is not the formula, you can modify things, all right? Or, this not too important now, or you can reset your formulas here. Very careful here. Save your formulas before you reset your formulas. Just careful in this section, right? Then here on financial reporting, we have the analytics, we have with some charts, we have rental activity, which is the base, for the financial reporting. We can see all the data here. We can use the filters. So many of the changes that are implemented now are aligning everything on user experience to be a seamless one, right? So if you're here, if you're on the owner statement, you know where to find the filters, right? So if you notice, we have been evolving with the filters, and now all our filters are consistent, right? So you can select the listings, you can select the tags, you can select the dates, quick dates, channels, listings, right? All this information, extremely important, right? When you're talking about reports, financial, setting the parameters, of what you want to see, right? And then we have owner statements. And then is when things start to change, right? Uh, what we have here is what is new, right? Yeah, let's start with what is new, right? So when you look here, you see, first of all, you see a cleaner page, right? So you get statements. Uh, there is a different concept now that is you can build owner statement or you can be inside the owner statement, right? Two different things. Before, the creation was from inside the owner statement, and then we would have a different section that would go, right? So as you can see here, all the new statements that are created, they keep stacking up, on a single page, and then you can go to each one of them, right? So then we have statements and auto statements, right? So it simplified at least the way that you navigate here. I'm going to auto statements in a minute, right? Another very different thing. Now we have the concept of published, right? We didn't have that before. Now, before you used to be either building an owner statement, creating an owner statement, or a saved owner statement, right? Now you can create an owner statement, have it on a draft mode, and then you publish, right? So it can be a work in progress, right? There is a different stage here. And that changes because you can create, save it without sharing with the property owner, for example, right? Because you're still making adjustments. So this is a giant one. And add from template, right? So this is something that was not available before, and now we have it, right? So now what does that mean? So I have already created an automation here. I'll show you in a minute how to create, but first I'll show you how to create the template, right? How to use the automation as a template. So I've created one. It already brought me, here's something. No, I don't want to create about March. I want to create normal statement for April. And then I create one. You see, statement successfully created, right? So there is the creation, but it's not published yet, right? So keep that in mind. Published draft. Now, what do I have to do? First of all, I may review the name. Maybe the name was not exactly what I was looking for. Maybe I missed something. I can review the name. I will certainly review the filters, right? Because that was a template, right? Review the listing. Very likely it is linked to the listing, to the way that the automation was created, right? Remember, I'm coming from a template, and you can have more than one template, right? Before you ask me that. And then here on the date, of course, if I'm doing April, that's just an information, a written information, right? And then I make adjustments here on the filter to show, to select only April, right? And as you know, I can do it also from here. I can say current month, for example, but that's not what, right? So I have set up here. The event, I review the event, but the logic is most property managers that I met so far, if they use check-in, they always use check-in as the event for the reservations, or if they always use checkout, checkout or creation of the reservation or calendar. It's the way throughout the listings, right? But if you need to modify it, is possible, right? Channels, that's not a usual selection. Remember, it comes as new and modified by default, right? So unless you want to change something. And here you start seeing another big change, right? Especially on the experience, right? So before, remember, we used to have the property manager name at the top with all phone number, a lot of profile information about the property manager on the left side, and then the owner information on the right side, right? So our team, when they were improving, they realized that this information was in the way. So it moved here, right? So now you can see that this information is at the bottom, right? You can still make adjustments, modify things. It's just that it's something, first of all, if it is for the same property owner, chances are that they haven't modified their phone number, their email, all this information. So very likely you will not modify that very often. But in case you need, yes, you can update everything here, all right? Your logo and some other things. Now, so now the highlights, remember we used to have the highlights, you had to open, there was summary, right? You would click here on the side. Now it's a lot cleaner and a lot quicker, right? You just click here and you can select what you want to see, right? So total discount, you see, it is quick, and I just check the box and it already appears, right? So it's a very quick one, and you can add the highlights or remove the highlights, right? Instead of having to customize the summary back and forth, looking, over formulas. It has become way more intuitive. Now, uh, this area here remains exactly the same, right? Same behavior. You can select columns, add more columns, everything. Expenses remain the same. You can still add attachments. So few modifications, but more on the user side, right? To make your life easier. And then same thing, grand total, right? So nothing has changed. You can add formula. Uh, and then this is the difference again, right? So I can save that, but it doesn't mean that I'm sharing it, right? Because I haven't published it, right? So two different status, right? So now what I can, if I come here to statements, I can see that I have the draft status, right? So this one has been created, but is not published yet, right? So that's a huge change, right? And another recent change that didn't change now, but it was recent, is that, and many of you may have already noticed, right? Now we can link the owner directly to the listing, right? To avoid confusion, when you are creating owner statements, we can already link that. And that creates an expectation that this is the owner that will be there, right? So on the owner statement, right? So it streamlines the process and makes it more natural. And going back to owner statement, this is the thing, then owner statements. And then I'm covering a lot of ground here, because then we can talk and go over the questions, okay? But I'm just going, just because of the changes, discussing the changes. So now you can also create an automation, right? And this one, especially good, many of you are managing 10, 50, 100 listings, right? And then every month you had to come here, recreate, click here, click there, now you don't have to do that anymore. You can automate the process, right? And now that I showed you the draft, it is important to know the draft because we can automate. Let's create an automation, right? So Andrew, you're talking too much. Okay, so now let's create an automation here. So if I create one for Fidel's listings, when I assign an owner, as you can see, I haven't assigned Fidel to any one of the listings, right? So I'm not finding here, the connection, right? So this is not going to help. So I'm going to create another one, for Andrew, just because Andrew is very rich and has many, many lists, right? So I select Andrew here, right? It is an owner. And then I click here, select who can access the statements created from this auto statement. I can add more people, right? So it doesn't have to be only one person, right? So there is one owner, or maybe more, right? But I can have different combinations here, right? And I can create one. You see it was created. And then I can customize it, of course, right? So I can modify, I can select, the listings that belong. Okay, so maybe nice apartment also belongs to Andrew. And I can select last month with that. So remember, this is the template that you're creating. So just keep in mind. And I create. I can define here. Maybe I don't want that, right? Maybe I want owner payout, for example, most common one. Again, I can customize all this information once, and then automate that, right? How do I do it? And then I save. So when I created this, I created a template, right? Then if we go here, now we have two auto statements that will work. So now I have to schedule when it will run. I want this to run automatically. I want it to be generated every fifth day of each month. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe you prefer to wait until the 10th. And you can automate the generation as a draft rather than publish, because then I would recommend that, because then you can review everything and publish it. But if you're super confident in your process and by the end of the month, the numbers are perfect, just go with publish, right? It's up to you. I would recommend draft. You see, so now another thing that you can do is, maybe you need a similar one. You can duplicate an automation, and you can also duplicate, an owner state, right? And you can unpublish. Remember, we can reverse, right? So maybe it was published. The property owner called you and said, "Hey, this number doesn't look correct." You can unpublish, review before you republish. Wow, I talk a lot, right? So, but I needed to cover many things. Everything is connected, as you can see. Important to go in a go. And now I'm going to pass the word to my friend, my colleague here, Fidel, so he can cover some of the things. First of all, Fidel, I'd like you to introduce yourself, to our audience here, tell a little bit of yourself about what you thought, when you were developing that, and then cover anything that I'm missing here, please.
Absolutely. So it's a pleasure being here. Well, I'm a product manager here at Hostaway already for over 5 years, and now in charge of parts about the financial reporting, owner statements, the QuickBooks integration, and many other things also related to guest payments and so on. So, basically, we built this project having in mind a lot of the feedback shared by many of you. So yeah, thanks for sharing this, and please keep doing so. One of the goals here was to simplify the creation and management of the owner statement. So we know that the usability that we had before in place was not the best one. Took too many clicks to create a statement. We missed automation, one of, something that it's in our DNA. We have automation in many other places, but we missed it for owner statements. So something that we brought. Also, we brought it together with other parts, such as the draft versus publish status, something that many of you were afraid of, like, hey, what if I'm creating a statement, I save it, but I still need to correct some parts, so I will need it to review it later on, but then the owner may see it, ask questions like, hey, how was this, or how was this before, and now it changed, so you want to avoid these sort of questions. We improved also the navigation. Before we had this weird create and edit altogether approach. Now we have an actual view versus edit mode, which I think it's the standard, something that you guys will be more familiar with. Same for the table that now Andrew is sharing here. You can customize the columns that you believe are interesting for you. Filters also improved, and the star here would be the auto statements. So coming to the auto statements, and something that I would like to highlight as part of this project is that now we have 4 ways of creating a statement. And each of those can be useful for one circumstance, one scenario, or the other. The first way of creating a statement is if you go to the statements list, you just click on add statement, and we added this pre-step. For some of you, it may be bothering, and I understand that because, hey, before I had like this create and edit thing, and I could already do that from there. Okay, but the point here is that users who are already knowledgeable about owner statements should not really create statements this way. This is too manual. This is more thought about for having a smoother onboarding or understanding a bit better the one-on-ones from owner statements. You may instead go for the second creation method. Still not my favorite. It's about duplication of this statement. So you can do that from the 3 dots in this list. So maybe Andrew, if you show it, you can duplicate it, yeah, by clicking there. So this is a good way of quickly creating a statement if you want to depart from an existing one. You can also duplicate those from inside the statement view. So if you open one statement in view mode and you go to the 3 dots, you will be able to duplicate. This is very similar to what I would say before was like the best or most optimized flow for creating a statement. So many of you could just open a statement from the, you can open it, you can navigate actually from inside the view. So if you go back, Andrew, and you click on the title of the statement, just click on Andrew owner tech, click on the title, there you go. So from here, you can quickly navigate and then find the statements you want. Just click then on duplicate. Very similar to what you had before, just that we sort of swapped the steps. This is, I would say, the second worst way of creating the statements. The first ones, in my opinion, would be one, by using the auto statements and scheduling those. So the moment that you have an auto statement ready, schedule it for, let's say, the 3rd of the month, the 5th of the month. I wouldn't recommend using the 1st of the month. So you have a bit of margin to perhaps enter all the expenses in the system, just make sure that they are already there, do any final adjustments, tweaks, review that all the reservations were correct, make sure that you don't have to adjust anything maybe related to resolutions, sort of things. So yeah, the automation is the preferred mode. And there is one final one, which is the creation from template. It takes only 4 clicks to create a doc anytime you may need a statement the moment that you have an automation. So one that I really like, so far, it's not the most used one. I know that many of you will have to get used to it, but honestly, I would encourage using the add from template, especially for the cases where you may be creating statements a bit more on demand or on a quarterly basis, perhaps, or, in different circumstances where the automation may not, you may not want to wait for the automation. So yeah, hope this is a bit of a good summary of all the 4 creation flows: manual, duplication, not so great, and then actual automation and creation from the template. All right, maybe it's time to answer a few questions. Andrew, what do you think? Was answering a few now in the chat. Hope
Yes,
the answers
sure.
are all for everybody.
Sure, Fidel. Big changes here, and many of them, like I remember having to guide the clients to uh, open a previous one, modifying and save with a different name. So it would create, so there was a lot of abstractions, right? So it was not complex, but this one is way more simplified, right? So you already have one and you duplicate and create it, right? So that's a good one. I got a question here. Let me see. Can we add multiple owners from Tony? Thanks, Tony, for your question.
That's a great question, and I'm seeing many other questions related to this. In a way, it's possible to add more than one owner to the statement, but this is a bit capped or limited at the moment, because when you are attributing an owner to a listing in listing edition, this part is limited to only one. However, what I'm reading here in the questions is that in the end, what you would like is all the owners to have access to this statement. And this is totally possible even if they are not marked as owner. So if you click Andrew on add statement, and the same is possible in the automation, but just to show it here. So here you could have just one owner. Let's pick the first one, or any of those. Okay. And now below, Yeah, I could just keep, well, here it's possible to already select two owners, which is great.
Yeah.
But due to the limitation on the listing edition, where you can only attribute one owner to one listing, in this case, you could not select both owners because the way like this this dropdown, the assign owner dropdown, is limited to the users that are assigned as owner using one listing. However, what you could do is assign maybe the main owner or the one that you want to use to show the data inside the owner statement, and then below select who can access this statement. You could select any additional users that will have access to. Normally view access is the one that you will give to the owner. So yeah, they will only be able to see the statement in the same way as the owner and the owner here would have. The only difference is that the user assigned as an owner will automatically fill the data section. And also, if you have any expenses or extras directly attributed to an user, you should then use this owner. That's it.
Okay. Got another question. Thanks. I have a question from Michael. It appears that you can only have 6 columns before the system starts cutting off the columns. Is there an editor to wrap the text of the column headers? I haven't noticed that.
The limitation
Oh,
depends on the. So can you click on download? You can select more columns, but in the PDF, if you don't use landscape mode and
yeah.
due to sort of space limitations, we're gonna cut it normally after 6, 7 columns. It depends on the length of the name of the column. So that's why we suggest using landscape. I think that the cap there stays at 13 to 14 columns. In our experience, this is more than enough.
Yeah, and there is also the option of uh, downloading the statement.
You need to go to view mode. So yeah, now you are in edit mode. This is something
Oh
that
yeah,
changed. So you
let me
can
s-
cancel
let me
or
say that
save.
again. Yeah, because you can download also an Excel file, right? If you need more flexibility to do it, right? So it's not my preferred way. I always recommend you share, create a user, and have the user visiting Hostaway because and that addresses another question about automating sending PDFs, right? So because of this kind of hiccups, that might happen because of format, right? So when we're talking about PDF, we have to think about a page, right? A page format. We don't have that limitation when we're using the screen. So it is more fluid. You could have like 20 columns, right? And a user could still come here and still see the owner statement the way that you intended the the owner to see the information the way that you want to display. But then when you select PDF, for example, then we are talking about a media, right? So then it has its own limitations, and then it doesn't work like that, right? So same thing. Is it possible to automate sending a PDF? No, that's not possible, right? So you can automate the creation of the owner statement and automating either the
Say
draft or publishing it, right?
it's not possible at the moment, but it's not the first time we hear about that. So this was like a pre-step before automating sending those to your owners. So this is definitely on the radar, and yeah, this will come in the future. Definitely, we don't have an idea yet, but it's coming. So stay tuned.
You see, nothing like bringing, the brain behind it, right? So we don't have it yet, right? So that's very important. So yeah, we are always working on bringing things that will help you, but this is not one of the automations at the moment, right? But yes, we are bringing that. Let me see. And also, Michael is asking the same thing about PDF version. Yeah. So
Mhm. Can you click on owner statements PDF, Andrew? So I saw some questions about how we could show that in landscape. So here in layout, maybe a few of you have by default. So can you click on landscape? This is the one that will allow you to show more columns. In portrait, as you can see, space is more narrow, so it's a bit more limited. So landscape will offer you more flexibility in terms of how much information you can fit in a single statement. So this is how it should be achieved. I'm seeing some questions about automated expenses. Yeah, we're already working on recurring expenses. These are the expenses that are the same month over month, things such as the internet fee. Why enter it for every listing every month if we know that it's going to be the same value, same like concept description, listing associated, and so on. So this is coming hopefully in summer. Another way of automating the expense creation, in case that some of you don't know, is through the tasks module. So tasks have a cost section that will automatically, in case that you use that option, generate expenses when the task is marked as completed. So for cleaning, for instance, you want to have an expense that corresponds to the cost. You could do that, but also for things such as maintenance and so on. So yeah.
Yeah, there's another way, that I've been working with some clients that they do that is first of all, you can duplicate, right? So depending on the amount of months, that you have to do that, let's say it is like 2 or 3 months, right? So you can always duplicate that, modify the date, create a different one, it will take you a couple of clicks and you can have 5, 6. But let's say you already know what you have for the next 24 months. Let's say, for example, it is the internet view, right? So you already know that you have to pay for that. We can always import, right? So we can import. All you have to do is add the listing ID, the amount. This is a template, right? So you can use this template and import that back into Hostaway, right? So all you have to do is to input the data here, right? And it will. And then, of course, in the future, it will be an automated process, but you can upload, let's say, the next 12 months, right? Because if you have an automation, you have an expectation. So it can even be 24 months out. So whatever you want to do, just put here the amount, the concept, which is, the description of what you're doing. If it is related to a reservation, my experience, usually if there is an expense related to a reservation, is more like a damage or something like that. That's usually not the case, but this is important, the listing ID. And then you go back here and then you import that CSV file, right? And then you have that for several months, if that's the case. All right. So can I assign? I have an interesting one. It's not about the automation, but it's a different management fee to listings. I charge different fees for different listings. Okay, this is more along the lines with formulas, but thanks for your question, Rita. Since we're here and we are talking about finances, let's go over your finances. In this specific case, right? So everything that I'm showing here, even when we talk about financial settings, this is being done on the account level, right? So now, if I want to modify the formula on the listing level, then you go to the listing, select financial settings here, and then you modify the formula, right? So you're talking about different management fee to list this. I'm assuming that when you say management fee, as a property management fee, right? So in that case, let's say for this listing, you don't charge 10%, right? So you got a good deal and now you're charging 15%. You negotiated that and then you save. So moving forward, so everything that any new reservation that comes for this specific listing will not use the management fee that comes from the account level, but it will work with the fee, the management fee that you have selected here, that you have added to the listing. Okay, the system will understand based on the reservation and the listing where it was made. Okay. Okay, I have a question here. Can you see owner statements in the mobile app? Not yet. Or download in mobile app. Anything on the roadmap for that, Fidel, that you can share with us?
This purchase being discussed, we want to offer more financial related information in the mobile app. Now it's quite limited. Not sure we will start with owner statements, honestly, but more on reservation level and something with more on the overview sense. But at some point it may come.
I have a question here. It's anonymous, so I cannot thank who made the question. Is that if we could on the statement, on the auto statement, if we could adjust the date range.
When
So
that's a good one. Not yet. So at this moment, the only available option is to generate a statement for the previous month. So we know that this statement is already closed, and all the reservations already came. All the expenses and extras were already registered. We have heard of a few cases where some property managers run statements on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Still not covered. However, I think that auto statements could be beneficial, at least in the terms of a template. So you could still create a statement from a template, and once you're there, just adjust the dates manually and save it. Probably it's gonna help you still, but it cannot be automated yet.
okay, I have a very good one for you here. It's again anonymous, cannot thank anyone for the question, but if I set the automation every fifth of the month, but there was a change on certain booking on the sixth, will the change automatically reflect on the automated statement?
Good one. So when a statement is created or saved, even if you do that manually, those statements are saved as a snapshot. Why don't we automatically update those? Well, because things could happen later on, but what if you already shared one statement with an owner and then an Airbnb resolution came 1-2 months later, anything like that, then you will not keep a copy of the statement that you actually shared with the owner that probably produced the payout. So we want to keep this for you to be controlled. If something happened on the 6th, you will have to click on refresh, and then this statement will be updated, and this change will be reflected. I see a very interesting question here. Is it possible to have the owner
Just a
statement?
second. I'm sorry,
Okay.
Fidel. Just a second, right? So to complete what Fidel was saying here, here's the refresh button, right? So you edit the owner statement here. I just opened the owner statement. I was here just to show because I just want to show how to get it done, right? So you click on edit. So let's say on the day 6th, right? Something more you modify the reservation, right? So then you reopen and then this is the refresh button, right? And then you have new data updating the owner statement, and then you can save it. Sorry, Fidel, go ahead.
Okay. Thanks for adding more context to it. So the question is if it's possible to have the owner statements in Spanish, and the answer is sí. So it is possible since recently. The only thing that you may need to adjust are the formulas titles, because we cannot really tell if a formula is like in a specific language. Also, many times like the names that these formulas contain could be anything personalized, customized. So you should just change those to Spanish, but the rest will appear in Spanish when downloading it as a PDF. Downloading that as an Excel, I believe it's not gonna be translated yet.
Yeah, so this can be accomplished by creating a new formula. You can add a new formula and you can copy exactly the same formula that you had before. But when you create the name, you create the name in Spanish, right? So then when you create the owner statement, you select the Spanish form instead, right? So this is a way that you can do it, right?
Even I would say that even renaming could be a possibility. So if you don't want to keep the original
I see.
names,
I
you
see.
can just go edit the formula and change it. But maybe having the copy safer because, for instance, we base few things in analytics based on the formula called rental revenue. So if you translate it, it may not really appear in analytics, something that we need to figure out how we can, do it for all cases because formulas only identifiable at this moment by the name. So yeah, something that we need to figure out.
Yeah, like this one, right? So there is, if you modify here, when you get, for example, on analytics, you see a different value, on right. So it might be confusing and get confusing even to manage everything from here, right? So careful there. Yeah. Oh, Tim. Hey, Tim, how are you doing? Will Hostaway be able to pull all Airbnb resolutions in the future to the owner statements? We already pull, the resolutions on the owner statement. What I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to. The main issue I see, that people tell me about the resolution is not exactly the amount, it's not exactly being pulled or not pulled, right? So if I get here, resolution, so we have resolution sum, we have open resolution, and we have closed resolution. It's not that we don't have, but most of the time, many times at least, we were talking about the fifth, right? So let's continue with that logic, or we close on the fifth. But the outcome of the resolution doesn't happen necessarily inside the same month. So then you close the owner statement, but the information was not there yet, right? What I usually recommend, and it is the way that I see working best, is to add the resolution to the expenses or extras in the future. So you keep consistent, the owner statement that you created in the past. Because the other option would be to reopen that owner statement from the past and then review all that, right? And how would you get the money back, from the property owner? It would be more confusing, right? But it is the simplest way communication wise that I've seen so far, right? Is putting a plus or a minus and here and explain that is a resolution sum. And then you can share, of course, the exactly resolution sum. And you can even attach, a screenshot of the resolution, right? That's the best way. But we do collect the information and you can also add to the form. But again, if you close, it's not there, there is no input. Okay, we have time for one more question. Fidel, is there any question here that you saw that you would like to address before we close here for today?
Well, there is one that it's so I can discount a field by a certain percentage. Yeah, absolutely. Using formulas, you can do that. So just apply any field, such as the cleaning fee, base rate, whatever you want, and just multiply it. So if you want to, I don't know, get a percent like, yeah, I don't know, apply a 20%, just multiply it per 0.2, and you will get that. So this is how most of our property managers figure out the property manager commission versus what the owner should be taking. Just apply this to all the single pieces, or maybe even better, all the pieces, and then apply this percentage, this commission. assuming that, which is the most common case, the same commission applies to all those items, and you can select which ones.
Okay, just one more. Okay, one more, because I got a very good one here that I don't want to close without going in. Since it's possible, it is anonymous. Sorry, I cannot thank you. Or maybe it is the same person that is anonymous sending several questions. So, since it's possible to create a statement automatically on a monthly basis, will it also automatically copy the formula per property listing? Wow, I'm not sure. Talk about that, right? So, if you want, that. Just if you want to copy a formula from listing to listing, let's say you only use this formula in a couple of listings, right? Not all your listings. If it is all your listings, you use the account level, right? But if it is only on a few listings, you can use this copy settings, right? From the listings, from financial settings, you click here and you select which formula you want to copy to other listings. So then for the owner statement, it will select whatever is on the account level unless you have modified the formula on the listing level. In that case, listing level will prevail, right? Because it will be considered the exception. And if you need to push this information to other listings, as well as taxes and things like that, you can use next, select the listing that you want to push the information to, and until you complete, and then you save. Okay. I hope that was able to help. Well, sorry, we're having a lot of fun here, but fortunately, we have to close this webinar. I'd like to thank you, Fidel, for joining us today, and sharing all your knowledge and answering so many questions. Thank you all, our audience, with all the engagement, bringing all the questions and everything, because this is what makes the discussion, richer, and some of the things haven't even thought about it, before you bring this up, right? So it is very important to have it, right? And for those of you that arrived later, during the webinar, you will receive a recording link tomorrow, so you can watch it at your own pace and time. All right. Thank you all for being here, and see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.